Welcome to our playoff edition of the Lifelong Rivals Sports Podcast. I'm Zach Kaufman here with Ryan D'Amico.
What's up, man? We're here, and it's a NFL playoff edition, which is awesome, it's just great to say and great to talk about. I love, NFL playoffs are great, and it's an exciting time of the year. I mean, we're gonna get into our NFL playoff. We're gonna look back at Wild Card Weekend, which, some years is pretty lame to say the least, but there were some pretty good games this weekend, most notably in the NFC. And we'll break them all down and then look forward to the divisional round, which a lot of people say year in and year out is the best weekend of football. And Zach will take a look back at that crazy national championship game last night between UGA and Bama, and we'll break it all down. And what went right, what went wrong, what could they have done different, and we'll break it all down and we'll get right into it. Anything you want to say before we get into our college football breakdown here, Zach?
It's a great time for football, man. We got the college football playoffs, the national championship finishing up. We got the NFL playoffs just getting underway, moving on to some more competitive, more exciting matchups coming up here. It's a great time to be a football fan. Amazing time.
How about sports too? I mean, we're starting to really get into the thick of the NBA season, of the college basketball season too. I mean, you and I, before we just went on the air, literally 30 seconds before we went on the air, we're talking about Trae Young, the superstar freshman from Oklahoma, who's just absolutely killing things right now. So as we get into deeper into the winter here, we'll obviously transition into NBA and into college basketball and start to really break things down there and get some insight into that.
And I actually have one other thing I just thought of as you were talking about college basketball here, because it's coming up tomorrow night. I'm actually heading up to George Mason near me here in Virginia, seeing St. Joe's play George Mason. We've got a Lancaster native there, Taylor Funk, who I grew up playing basketball with. I coached him when I was in high school. He was in third grade, and he'd come to some of our basketball clinics. Got to coach him. He's getting a lot of playing time there on St. Joe's. Fantastic shooter. So shout out to Taylor Funk. Get to see him play live coming up this Wednesday. So tomorrow for me.
That's awesome, dude. That's so cool. Yeah, I actually checked him out last year. He went to Mannheim Central and went there to watch one of their games. I think it was a playoff game, if I remember. I can't remember. No, I think it was a regular season game. But even still, went there with a buddy of mine and just to check him out. And he's a very good player. And you're right. He's getting a lot of playing time and doing some good things as a freshman there for St. Joe's. So, yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure that'll be a good time, man. You'll definitely enjoy yourself. How far of a drive is that going to be for you?
It's right around 45, 50 minutes for me. So works out pretty convenient for me. I haven't been to a George Mason game yet, so I'm excited to see what it's like.
That's awesome. Yeah, that should be fun. That's going to be a good time, man. Enjoy yourself. That's awesome.
For sure. And we actually had additional Mannheim Central news this week with Matt Nagy being hired as the Chicago Bears coach, former Mannheim Central grad here from Lancaster. Played at was it Michigan?
He went to University of Delaware.
Oh, Delaware. Okay.
Same helmet scheme. Same
right.
Same color scheme. Yeah.
Trying to remember off the top of my head there, but I know he was playing there in college.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's a big hire. Good for him. He's spent a lot of his time around the area, like you said, Central. Went to Delaware. Then he actually was under the Eagles coaching staff for a little while with Andy Reid. In turn, followed Reid to Kansas City for a little while, if I remember correctly. Bears, and now he has a head coaching job. So good for him. It's always good to see local guys from the area making it big. That's what it's all about. You don't see it very much, but when you do see it, it's really, really cool. So, all right, yeah, let's transition into the college football championship game last night, Zach, which Look, I got to tell you, this college football playoff this year was fantastic. I mean, you had, two of the three games were, all-timers. I mean, the Bama-Clemson game was a snooze fest. It is what it is. But, I mean, that Oklahoma-Georgia game that we talked about last week, the overtime thriller, double overtime thriller, was fantastic. And then we get another overtime game last night, Zach, between Bama and Georgia, which, coming into this game, Zach, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't as hype as I was the last handful of years for the national championship. I don't know why. Maybe I don't know if it was like the all SEC feel, if it was the teams involved. Oh, here it's Bama again. I don't know what it was, but I just wasn't all that excited for the game and for the matchup. And in the first half, it really kind of, lived up to my expectations, or didn't live up to my expectations, I guess you could say, with Georgia, really putting a stranglehold on Alabama. Usually it's the other way around. I mean, usually you see Bama, coming out, burying teams early, suffocating them with their defense, pounding away with the running game, taking shots downfield when possible, getting out to a nice lead, and then teams just not being able to come back on that good defense. That's what we saw to start the game last night with Georgia. They really ran the ball well. Jake Fromm, their freshman quarterback, looked really, really good in the first half. Well, for the whole game, for that matter. Took his shots downfield when possible. And, look, they got out to a 13-0 lead. Jalen Hurts, the Alabama quarterback, in the first half, 3 of 8, 21 yards. I mean, you see that, and you got to be thinking to yourself, there's no way we're going to win this game. I mean, really, there's no way we're going to win this game when our quarterback has 21 yards passing in the first half. We have no points. I mean, what are we going to do? Well, lucky for Alabama fans, Zach, they have Nick Saban as their coach, who is what makes, in my opinion, I think as someone I've coached very, very briefly, you've coached for a long time now. One thing, Zach, that I think that makes a great coach, you look at all the characteristics, a guy like Nick Saban, a guy like Bill Belichick. What makes a great coach is them not giving a fuck what anyone thinks. I mean, how many coaches in that situation last night, Zach, would have pulled their starting quarterback, who, by the way, in 2 seasons, Zach, had only lost 2 games.
Right.
Who had only threw 1 interception this entire year. And not only are you going to bench him, you're going to bench him for a true freshman, a kid who was going to his senior prom last year in Hawaii, and doing all the things that seniors do, and graduating and doing all this fun stuff. And you turn to this kid and say, hey, Tua, I know we're down 13-0. I know it's the national championship game. I know you haven't started any game yet in college. You've had some mop-up duty here and there, but here's the keys, man. Go win this game for us. I mean, how many coaches would do that?
That's a bold move, man. That I was very surprised to see that happen. I know you said about Hurts really struggling as a passer. He did make some plays on the ground there in the first half that kind of gave a little bit of hope. It would be very hard for any coach to pull their starting quarterback who's gotten them to this point. I was very impressed with the boldness of it. I was also impressed with Hurts' attitude about it. He still stayed in the game. He seemed, I don't want to say positive about it, but he didn't seem like down about it, or like some guys get pulled, they sit themselves out on the bench. They're useless the rest of the day, maybe the rest of the season. So he was still engaged. He was still around there. He was still celebrating. So that was good to see. Huge respect for Hurts for going through it with such class there, and huge amount of boldness, of ballsiness there from Nick Saban to do that and put in the backup quarterback in the national championship game.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. And, yeah, you're right. You got to tip your hat to Jalen Hurts, who gave a post-game interview to Tom Rinaldi last night on ESPN and just echoed the same sentiment that you said. He was just team. I'm just glad we won the national championship game. I helped us get to this point, and he's right. Look, without him, who's to say they would have got to that point? But, yeah, and like we said, Nick Saban turns the reins over to true freshman Tua Tagovailoa. And look, he comes in and leads them right down the field on the first drive. And I think that's what really got things going, because it's like, okay, apparently the word in the locker room, Zach, was they were going to alternate. Tua said they were going to alternate. Like, Nick Saban was like, all right, you're going to start the second half, and we're going to just kind of go with whatever's working for us. It would have been interesting to see, had he struggled there, say he goes 3 and out or he gets a first down and then they have to punt, what would he have done? But obviously we won't know, because Tua does a great job and leads them right down the field and scores a touchdown pass to Henry Ruggs III to make it a 13-7 ball game. And all of a sudden, look, Bama fans are like, all right, we got something here. And
on that drive, he came in, and I forget if it was his first or second play. He had that incredible play where
third down
back 3 or 4 down. Was it third down? It was early on there. He dodged a couple defenders, spun off of one, ran around to the other side, and picked up that first down. That was an incredible play.
It really was. I mean, you're right. Scrambled out to his right. He's a lefty, this kid. He scrambles out to his right. Looks like he's going to get brought down. Bounces off a couple tackles, comes around, reverses field, picks up the first down on a big third down to keep the drive alive. And he kind of never looked back after that. Then, though, Zach, the other true freshman on the other side, who we haven't talked about yet, Jake Fromm, who at one point in his high school career was actually committed to Alabama. And backed off the pledge, flipped his commitment to Georgia. He comes right back on, I believe, the second play of that next drive and hits Mecole Hardman for an 80-yard touchdown pass, which was an absolute dime, Zach. It was. I mean, it was a great throw. Hits him in stride. Hardman barely stays in bounds. His heel almost hits out of bounds, and he takes it to the house. And that Hardman kid, I followed his recruitment very closely. He had some interest in Michigan, made a couple visits to Michigan, and so I was obviously pretty big on him. And I remember him in high school. That kid is a burner. I mean, a absolute burner. He has track speed. I mean, I think he runs a 4.41 or something. I mean, he is fast, dude. He is really fast. So, I mean, what do you say about that play from Fromm? I mean, that's some big balls to come right back after it looks like Bama gets all the momentum. You hit a deep ball, and you're sitting pretty at 20-7 now.
Well, they were also set up poorly because I think it was Hardman on the kickoff return didn't get much at all, and I forget if there was a penalty too, but I'm almost positive that was a 94. Oh, there I go. So that was a 93-yard drive.
It was
right there.
Yep.
So they started at the 7-yard line, and they were able to make up for it. So it was all the momentum was against them, where Alabama had just scored. Now they have terrible field positioning. You'd think they're just hoping to gain some yards, kind of get better field position. But boom, 80-yard touchdown there to Hardman. His second of the game. He also had that rushing touchdown in the first half. He is an explosive player. That's for sure what we saw in that play. Had some incredible balance, staying in bounds down the sideline, like you mentioned. His heel was almost indistinguishable whether it was out of bounds or inbounds. It was right there on the edge of the line, but able to stay in, take it the whole way for the touchdown. And that seemed like just a devastating play for Alabama at that point.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, you're down 20-7. You're thinking to yourself, man, we just came back 13-7. I mean, what are we going to do? And then on the next drive, Tua on, I forget if it was second or third down, rolls out to his left, and there was nothing there. I mean, there was absolutely not. I mean, the receivers had their back turned to him. Should have just threw the ball away. Instead, he tries to force one. It gets intercepted. You're thinking to yourself, and I was thinking to myself too, I was like, look, even though there was, I think, 5 minutes left in the third quarter and you still have the whole fourth quarter, I was thinking to myself, I don't know, man. That just kind of has the feel of a backbreaker. It kind of did for a second. Had the feel of a backbreaker to think, man, I don't know if Alabama can get over this hump now. It was a good effort by the young kid leading them down for a touchdown drive. But I know I had the feel that I wasn't sure that they could overcome that. And boy, was I wrong. 2 plays later, they get an interception, which was the play of the game. I know people talk about the fourth down play or the play in overtime or the whatever. To me, Zach, that's the play of the game, because if Georgia gets any points on that drive, whether it's 23-7 or 27-7, you feel that's just a little too much for Alabama. Instead, they get a fluke interception, which was Fromm tries to throw the pass ahead to his running back, his safety blanket. It hits off of defensive lineman Deshaun Hand's helmet and bounces right into another defensive lineman for Alabama's hands, and he takes it into Georgia territory. Play of the game or no, in your opinion? I think that's the play of the game, because without it, Zach, I don't think they get to where they ultimately got to.
I agree with you on that. Like we mentioned, all the momentum suddenly turning against them after that touchdown from Georgia, and then they threw an interception. That interception from Georgia was a great play too, with the defender going up over a couple guys to bring that in. It was intended for the guy, not even the guy he was covering, the receiver that was behind him. So he made a great play on that. But then 2 plays later, get that wild interception there. I have a hard time putting it as play of the game, but I fully agree they wouldn't have been where they ended up if it weren't for this play. And it was you described it perfectly. It was one of the weirder interceptions you'll see that went directly off the defensive lineman's helmet, skies up in the air, and gets intercepted there. I'm not going to give you play of the game on it, but that was a very key play for this Alabama defense.
Fair enough. I'm sticking with play of the game. I get where you're coming from, though. There was obviously a lot better plays that we'll get into here in a moment. They go down, though. Alabama does and kicks a field goal to put a little dent into that lead, make it a 20-10 lead. And after that, I mean, it was all Alabama. After that. The Georgia offense really sputtered there. Bama really sunk in defensively, got after it, really made things difficult on the running backs with Sony Michel and Nick Chubb. Also with Fromm taking away what he was able to do early on in the game. And I was tweeting during the game, Zach, and I was saying that in the first half, I noticed that the reason Fromm was having a lot of success throwing the ball was because Alabama could not get pressure with their front four, with just their front four. Fromm had a lot of time in the pocket to throw, make his reads, and deliver a good ball. In the second half, in particular in the fourth quarter, you saw, I don't know whether it was, fatigue setting in with Georgia or what, but I started to notice them getting some pressure with their front four and sometimes bringing that fifth guy down, really kind of getting Fromm off of his spot, making him a little antsy. At the end of the day, still a true freshman, and then bottling in their running backs. I mean, the defensive tackles for Alabama last night did a fantastic job on their running game, and they couldn't get anything going. So Alabama kicks a field goal with just under 10 minutes to go to make it a one-score game. And like I said, them being Georgia could not do anything. A really non-productive drive. They trade some punts there, and then with under 4 minutes to go, Tua finds Calvin Ridley to tie the game, which was, Zach, on a fourth down play, which just I really couldn't believe what I was watching last night with that freshman quarterback Tua Tagovailoa, however the hell you say his name. I'm still struggling to say his name. It's a Hawaiian name. It's pretty difficult, but that's why it's easier just to call him Tua. But I mean, what he did on that play, like, okay, I'm not in a rush. Let me make my reads. Okay, nothing's there. Let me roll out to try to extend the play a little bit. And then I don't know whether he was trying to throw it for Ridley or if he was just trying to throw it into the end zone and to try to give someone a chance, which I think is what he was trying to do. Let me just throw it in the end zone and give my guy a chance. Similar to what Carson Wentz did on that fourth down against the Rams earlier in the year when Jeffrey had that touchdown. He wasn't throwing it to Jeffrey. He just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Same thing here with Tua. I think he was just trying to throw it in the end zone, make a play. And your boy, Calvin Ridley, who had a kind of a down game, makes a big play for Alabama.
I was curious what you'd think on that one too, if it was intended for Ridley or not, because there was another receiver behind him that I thought for certain that's who it was going to, until Ridley kind of stepped out from behind the defender and put in that touchdown. And he missed. He was overthrown on a touchdown early in the game. I think it was in the first half there. They missed Calvin Ridley for another potential touchdown. But for the second game in the playoffs here, second game in a row, Ridley comes away with the touchdown and an essential touchdown at that there at the end of the game to finally tie it.
Yeah, and you make a good point there, Zach. They did miss him on not just that one early, on a couple plays. You could see him getting frustrated too. At the one point, you could see he wanted to slam the ball. Instead, he just kind of flicked it to the side. He's definitely getting frustrated. Look, he knows he's a playmaker. He knows he's probably the best receiver in the country and the best receiver coming into the draft this year. And credit to him for sticking with it and making a big play in the game and tying the game up for his team. So then we get to the final possession for Alabama of regulation, where it looks like they're just going to do what they do. They drive the ball down the field. They're a beneficiary of a big pass interference call, which kind of suspect if you ask me, but that's neither here or there. They get down into field goal range, and they bring on their kicker, Papanastos, and I'm thinking to myself a couple things. So it was inside 40 yards. I believe it was something like 30. I think it was like 33 or 37, somewhere in that range. It was definitely inside 40. And I'm thinking to myself, they showed the stat how he only missed one field goal all year inside 40. He had just missed a 40-yarder in the first attempt of the game really poorly. I mean, he hooked it left so bad. So I'm thinking to myself a couple things. I'm thinking, do I use the number that he has been so money inside 40 yards, or do I use the notion that I just saw this kid miss really badly on his first attempt? It's going to go that way. And with all the pressure and everything, and I thought to myself, look, I think he's going to miss. One of my buddies I was watching the game with said, "Oh, why aren't they letting Alabama score?" Talking about Georgia trying to get the ball back and then giving themselves a chance. I looked at him. I said, college kickers. That's all you need to know. College kickers, you cannot trust them. If you have one you can trust, it's a big leg up, literally. And this kid crumbled under pressure. And at that point, you had to really feel for the kid, no?
Yeah, definitely. And it was good to see, like, as soon as he missed it, there were two of his teammates came immediately over to him. They were kind of there supporting him. So that's always good to see, especially in case he was needed in that overtime period, that it might be something that they're not finished. They didn't end up needing him during that time. But if they did, they've still got to rely on him, whether he's missed 4 kicks or whether he's 3 for 3, whatever it is, they still need him on their team. So I like seeing that from those players. And that's always good to see. Like we talked about with Hurts, being kind of a team player, supporting the team, saw it from their other guys. And I think that's a strong reason why they were able to stay in this game and continue to battle back throughout the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's true, because in overtime like that, you're not sure if you're going to need them again. You're not sure if this kid's going to have to trot back out and attempt a 45-yarder again to win it or prolong the game. You don't know, so you have to keep the kid's spirits up, obviously, and that's what Alabama tried to do. So, look, in turn, he misses the field goal. We go to another overtime game. I mean, what a way to end the college football season, going to overtime. Georgia gets the ball first. I was saying at the time, getting back to the Oklahoma-Georgia game last week, remember we were talking about Oklahoma kind of calling the game a little conservative in overtime and kind of out of their element? I thought Georgia did the same thing here. I thought Georgia really was conservative. I mean, 2 runs that really got you nothing, where in my experience watching college football, the more aggressive offense in these situations, more times than not, it's the winner. And then on third down, Fromm takes a sack, which you cannot take a sack there. Oh, my God. But look, that's what you get for starting a freshman. Instead of throwing the ball away, he eats it and takes a sack, and they have to bring in Blankenship to attempt a 51-yard field goal, who he buried a 55-yarder last week in the Rose Bowl, if you remember. He comes in, He's a funny guy. He rocks the goggles, the glasses.
I always noticed that.
You know, and it's funny because people say it. Kickers they're their own kind of breed, man. Kickers are different, which I think you have to be a kicker. It's like you're only called upon 4 times, 5 times, sometimes a game. You know, you have to constantly be ready. You're always on the side, like kicking into that fucking net. Like, you know, it's, kickers are, they're their own different type, if you will. And I think Blankenship falls into that realm. But all kidding aside, he buries a 51-yarder, and he's jacked up about it, as he should be.
An impressive kick for sure.
Very impressive, and he bangs that through. And now the pressure's on Alabama, Zach. Now the pressure's back on the true freshman in this Alabama offense to try to make something happen. And this is where things get real crazy. First play in overtime for Alabama. This kid takes a 16-yard sack. He's trying to make a play. He's trying to keep it like a la Russell Wilson, the whole let me turn my back, run backwards,
right.
thing. The stuff that Russell Wilson makes it look easy. It's clearly not. Russell Wilson does that just because he's a special player. And Tua tried doing it and failed and took a sack. And I mean, you could see Saban on the sideline, almost throwing his headset and whatnot. And then that's where things get tricky, and that's where things get fun. The second and I believe it was
second and 26.
Thank you. Second and 26 from the. You have that word
41
from the 41.
Yep.
Okay, second and 26 from the 41. They have a 3-by-1 set, so they have 3 receivers on the right side, 1 on the left, and they're running 4 verticals. They're running 4 verticals to try to make a play. And we were talking this before we went on the show here. And Georgia's playing a basic cover 2 where they have 2 safeties in the middle of the field. And look, Tua does a great job. Christ, you don't even see seniors do this sometimes, and he's a true freshman. That he looked off that safety from the get-go. Like you could tell he wanted to throw that to the lone receiver on the left side. He looked off that safety, pulled him towards the middle of the field, and then looked back left and saw his guy one-on-one and just, again, threw an absolute perfect ball to Smith down the left sideline, who was wide open, runs underneath it. And Alabama wins the national championship on a walk-off, freshman to freshman connection. What was your reaction to that play?
That was such a great finish there. Such an exciting finish. Like you said, it was interesting how similar the 2 possessions were, where Georgia took that huge sack and then ended up kicking a field goal. And immediately Alabama comes up, takes another huge sack. They were both similar loss in yardage right around 15, 16 yards. And for them to be able to come back from that, second and 26, you rarely see that in a game, let alone in overtime. And for usually a lot of times, teams will go conservative there. They'll try and get 5, 6 yards. They'll think the defense is playing off. Alabama, once again, they were aggressive when it came to benching their quarterback, going with Tua there. They were aggressive here, going for the long ball, going for the win, and it was there. It was open. Like you said, looking off the safety, I mean, I'm sure he's trying to make a play there and trying to read the freshman, take advantage of that, and being able to look him off, make that pass, and end the game. Such an exciting way to finish there. This was an incredible game here to close out the college season.
I'll tell you, we've been really fortunate the last handful of seasons, the last 3 years really, with these national championship games that we've had. I mean, three years ago you had Bama Clemson Part 1, where Bama wins it. You had, that came down to the wire. You had last year with Clemson Bama Part 2, where Clemson gets revenge, scores with 1 second left on the clock to win the game. Now you have this matchup, Bama and Georgia, and Bama wins on a walk-off. I mean, and it's great because, look, these are the kind of games, like, it sounds cliche, but, like, these are the kind of games you tell your grandchildren about. I mean, really, I mean, these are the kind of games that, make legends. And, obviously, you don't know where Tua's going to go. You don't know where some of these younger guys on Alabama that made plays last night are going to go. Oh, by the way, the leading passer, the leading rusher, and the 2 leading receivers last night, not named Calvin Ridley, all freshmen. Tua, the quarterback, Najee Harris, running back, and Henry Ruggs III and Devontae Smith, who caught the game-winning touchdown, all freshmen. So if you're tired of Alabama and you're tired of seeing them win every year, well, get used to it because they're obviously not going anywhere. The amount of talent that Saban has and the amount of, the great job of recruiting that him and his staff do there is phenomenal. So, a couple things, Zach, quickly before I get your kind of final input on, your takeaway on the grand scheme of things. A couple things for me. Saban is a machine. Saban is up there with Bill Belichick as, in my opinion, the best football coach on the planet and maybe ever. I mean, this guy has 6 national championships in college. He has 5 now in Alabama. He had his first one at LSU. That was before he took the job with the Dolphins and went to the NFL, tried that little experiment, said, it's not for me, and came back to college. And people are asking, making me like, why isn't Saban go to the NFL? Why would he? That's my response. I mean, if you're Nick Saban, why would you go to the NFL? You're winning. You're not only winning, you're dominating college football. You make a shit ton of money. You're living a really good life. There's no reason to go to the NFL. And then 2, I want to commend Georgia for the season that they had. Not many teams would have been in the shape that Georgia was in with all that kind of happened to them. One, they were way ahead of schedule. Zach, this team was 8-5 last year. This team had 5 losses last year. I mean, you really don't see that kind of a jump that much and that quickly in college sports or in professional sports for that matter. I mean, that's a massive turnaround. What Kirby Smart was able to do, obviously former defensive coordinator for Alabama for the last 4 or 5 years, what he was able to do this year was fantastic. And not only does he get a quick turnaround, he lost his starting quarterback early in the season. And they had to turn to a true freshman and Fromm and say, look, go win us a game in Notre Dame. Go win us an SEC title game. Go win us a national championship game. And the kid almost did it. And I don't know if you heard, I get this vibe you're the same kind of way, the kind of person as me, is you like when coaches coach for the right reasons, and you like when they take pride in, grooming kids, preparing kids for life.
Definitely.
I don't know if you saw it, but do yourself a favor if you haven't and listen to Kirby Smart's post-game press conference, because what he says in that press conference is, I wanted to go and get a helmet and play for Kirby Smart last night. Like I did. Like he's the kind of coach you want to play for. And I'm not an SEC guy. Never was. I really don't like the conference. I do a lot of shady shit there. But after hearing that and watching Kirby Smart this year, I like Kirby Smart and I'm rooting for him. I hope good things come his way the rest of the way. And I think they will. And Georgia, I think, is going to be there for a long time. They bring in the number 1 recruiting class as of right now in 2018. And like I said, they're ahead of schedule. So those are the 2 takeaways for me. Georgia's not going anywhere. They'll be around. Obviously, Bama, they're not going anywhere. They'll be around. And Nick Saban is the GOAT, without a doubt, as far as college football coaches go, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun college season for me. I know we talked about it early on when we were doing the podcast over the summer, how historically I have not followed college football very much. I'm just starting to get into it based on your encouragement here throughout the season. And I definitely enjoyed this season when I've been checking in. Some of the teams I got attached to. I know you always pointed out my love for Kerryon Johnson after I watched him a couple of times there in Auburn. There's been a couple standout players throughout the season, and definitely fun to see. And some of these guys, Nick Chubb, he's heading to the draft. Calvin Ridley, he'll head to the draft. I'm sure there's guys along both these defenses that'll be heading to the draft as well. So we'll continue seeing quite a few of these players that we got to see last night in that championship game, both in the NFL at the next level, and like you said, a lot of these young players coming back and playing for the same team, trying to guide them to another national championship appearance and national champion.
Yeah, and that's the fun thing about following college football, Zach, or I should say following both college and the NFL, is you get to see that transition. You get to follow these kids from when they're freshmen all the way up until their 10th, 12th year in the NFL. I mean, it's really cool to see. And me, myself, over the last 5 years have really got into recruiting. So, I mean, I'm seeing these kids from, taking off junior year of high school and then watching them pan out well into their, 10th, 12th year, like I said, in the NFL. So it's really cool to see that. That's one thing that I love and really look forward to every year. And look, college football is over. It's done with. And it comes and goes so quickly. And we say it every year, and it's a shame. It really is a shame. And look, another 4 weeks, we're going to be saying the same thing about, NFL football. It comes and goes so quickly, and nothing lasts forever. And unfortunately, we're going to have to put football in the back burner here and put them on hiatus for a little while.
Thank you so much for listening to the Lifelong Rivals Sports Podcast. We really appreciate it. We've changed some things up based on some of the feedback we've received, so we'd love to continue hearing your feedback. As we continue to build this platform with our podcast, it's very helpful to us if you can share it with the people you know that you think would be interested. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and have a great week.